research. And I think it's true to say that you become very defensive of people who really lived. It's not that you're uncritical, but you can't play a character if you judge them.
Right.
So as far as I was concerned, other people say that he is this God figure, the Sun God and the Sun King and all of that. As far as I'm concerned, I've got to find the human being, and of course I was helped in that by Alison Deegan's writing, because she gives, thank you very much, she gives him scenes that are human, and so you sense his aloneness, which is an accident of birth. If you're born that, then the rules are already established. He woke up in the morning always alone, except with 60 men staring at him at the end of the bed. It's a crazy environment to be in, people watching him eat, hoping he might throw a question at them. And he had to maintain that mystery in order to keep his mystery. Because I don't know what it does for the inside of your head. And he was a great patron of the arts. Amazingly talented people were encouraged by him, and at the same time, he, specifically to our film, you have a situation where this genius called Lemaitre builds these gardens, but Louis points at a piece of ground and says, build Versailles there, and it's the worst place he could have chosen. Swamp. Mosquito-ridden, terrible. He doesn't know that. Let's get on with it, with the builders, and there's no irrigation. It's really impossible place. And look at it, it's a work of complete genius. So yeah, it's what you were saying about huge creative acts need people like Louis XIV, or governments, or like local governments, like in Bilbao in Spain. They had very little money, and they built the art gallery there with $1 million and completely turned their economy around because of one building. So I like the fact that it can celebrate huge acts of creative imagination, and then in the film we see her chipping at one tiny little piece of rock as well. It's all part of it.
Yeah. Thank you. And from one powerful person to another, Rasputin, I can't help asking you about him. And not about his personality, actually, but the time when he lived. I think it's the most tragic times in Russia, the revolution. So he knew. I think that when I watched the film, how you played him, he knew what will happen to the Tsar, to the family. So was it a burden to him just to know all those people will die and the country will ruin? Was it possible to change anything?
He was a peasant, so with certain physiognomy, which wasn't refined European physiognomy, and he was in a court, brought into a court by a German woman, full of very frightened, vain, silly people. And so he was like an alien from another planet, of course, just by the way he looked, apart from anything else. So, but he had done a 3,000-mile pilgrimage, so it's not like he was a charlatan. He was committed. And the interesting thing about Rasputin is, of course, that if he were alive now, he'd probably have a very successful practice in Harley Street. It was mystery and mayhem then, but it wouldn't be now. It would be called hypnotism, I suppose. So it's very difficult to get at what is the truth. You're just placing this completely alien element down into this world of, a bit like the court of Louis XIV, I think, all trying to, you know, like, what does it say in the film, where we made a trap in my film. Same mice, same trap, different trap. Yeah.
And in such tragic periods of history, can a person change, one person change anything? What do you think?
Well, history is full of stories of one person who's changed things. Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah. How else does it change unless you have a Che Guevara or a Castro or a Hitler? You know.
And what should people of art do if they see just terrible things going around?
What good is it? Did you say?
I asked what could
what can artists do?
Artists, in the wide sense of this artist, writers, actors.
Well, we always, you know, great art seems to me to always be the alternative. It's always presenting the alternative because it's about your soul and it's about your imagination. You may read it or look at it, be it a painting or whatever, and not receive it or not agree with it. But it's about the other part of the human being, and you know, if we went to Italy now and went to the Sistine Chapel, there would be thousands and thousands of people queuing up to go in and see it.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
So you know, these things, they have an undeniable eternal force, and they're unknowable.
So they can influence.
Yeah, because we have to struggle to understand them. You know, great art is somehow bigger than the person that made it, and it's certainly bigger than those of us trying to. You know, I worked with Peter Brook in Stratford on Shakespeare, and we were doing Antony and Cleopatra, and he said to us, "It doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you'll never be as good as the play."
There was another great film of yours that is Close at Land, an old one.
Well, very old and strange, and yes, I'm not sure how many people saw that one, but
quite a lot. I think it's still relevant.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
So what do you think about censorship in general, and should be any forbidden topics in art?
No.
So you can talk about anything you think.
What's the point? Who says, who has the right to say you and I can't watch that? That's just another human being. No. Everything should be talked about.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think? I know that you played in some plays or directed even by Chekhov, a Russian dramatist.
I haven't directed any Chekhov.
Played.
No, but I have been in The Seagull and and Uncle Vanya.
Yeah. So what attracts you to Chekhov?
He's the greatest because he's unknowable. Same thing. You'll never match him. Every time you think you're there, he slips away from you. He understands. For us, it's difficult because you need to know that you have a very relation, and that's difficult to know. You know, it's. I wish I spoke Russian really well and to see a great. Well, I have seen some great Russian productions in Russia, but. but translation is always a problem.
You've been twice in Russia while shooting Rasputin, yeah? So, did you like it?
I had a wonder. I also performed there years ago in Brothers Karamazov, but it was very unofficial. It was back in 1991, I think. And we performed. Well, I went back to Tbilisi. Well, it's not Russia, I know it's Georgia, but then it was Russia.
Yeah, the Soviet Union.
Then it was the Soviet Union. So I'd been there through it all, the changes.
Yeah. Have you noticed those changes? Were they great?
In 1991, that was pretty huge because, of course, everything was going on then.
Right.
I don't mean 1991, I mean 1980. Yeah.
Okay.
Even more. Yeah, because then it was like we went from the first time I went there, it was in the 80s, and that was going from Moscow to Leningrad, as it was called then, to Tbilisi. That was like going from London to Venice to Athens. In the same place.
Yeah, the country was huge.
So yeah, you have to rearrange your thinking. When I was there in shooting Rasputin, it was wonderful to be in St. Petersburg. We shot in St. Isaac's Cathedral. Nobody had ever shot there before. And at the same time, I was staying in a hotel where you could see the big divide. Everything was starting to change. There were the rooms were costing the film company a fortune every night, and then I was listening to how little money the people were being paid on the front desk. And there was a little old lady sitting outside the hotel selling some shoes and a wooden spoon. And I think I was driven to the set in Lenin's car. It still made me love the country a lot. And I loved the people.
What did you like most of all?
The generosity of the people and the warmth and it's very hard to forget playing Rasputin and going to Yusupov's palace.
Yeah.
And also standing on the stage of his mother's little theatre and speaking some Shakespeare in this beautiful theatre for 90 people. Now I have so many memories of being there and wonderful people and a very happy time.
Thank you. So now, what about your future projects? I know that you're going to shoot in Limehouse Golim, right? So what can you say about this? What attracted you to such?
Oh, it's a really good script, of course. It's all set in Victorian England, but it's a kind of much dirtier and uglier Victorian England than anything that you see in Dickens on the television. It won't be like that. It's a Spanish director, Juan Carlos Medina, and he did a very interesting film called Insensible. So I really look forward to working with him. I can't tell you the plot because it would ruin the film for you, because it's a murder mystery.
Does it differ from the novel?
It differs from the novel insofar as in the novel my character you don't really know who he is. In the film you do. Yeah, so that much is different. And then I have a film that opens in Toronto in a couple of weeks called Eye in the Sky, which is about drones and terrorists.
Have you got any stage plans?
Talking about it, but hard to organise because the trouble with stage is that they want you to commit a long time in advance, and film wants you to be free tomorrow. so they don't work together very well, but it's always in my mind, yeah. So there is a play I'm talking about, we'll see.
Well, and you've shot a lot with children, in Harry Potter, in even Little Cats. There are a lot of children. Can an adult actor learn something from children?
Yeah, when they're great, there's no interruption. It's a bit like, because I went to art school, I'm always trying to creatively. When you're asked to paint the sky, and as a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, you just take a brush and you go like that across the top of the paper. So the sky is just a blue stripe. And that seems simple. And then some adult comes along and says, yeah, but the sky comes down through the tree. And that's a very disappointing day. Because I'm always trying to get back to that moment where that's the sky. Children still do that as actors.
In acting also.
Yeah. There's a moment in Little Chaos when I ask them all a question, and one of the little girls just says, yes. That wasn't in the script. She just believed that I was asking her the question, so she answered. So we put it in the film.
I see. And acting in general, so Helen Bonham Carter was asked a question, what is acting for her? She said it's escaping from the reality. Is it the same for you?
Well, yes, it's true, but it's a choice. You choose to do it. It's not like the word escape sounds like you do it at a run, but I'm making a choice, so I'm happy to walk in a decisive. But no, it's creating another reality. So it's not really an escape from reality. In a way, it's making something more real.
You mentioned somewhere before that it's your dream to have your own theatre. Is it still your dream?
A bit late for that now.
Really?
Yeah, it needs a younger person to do that.
Okay, I see. But still, as a child, we always have some dreams. Did your dreams come true?
You know what it's like? I think Kate Blanchett said it in an interview. I mean, yes would be the answer in many ways, because you have to, at certain points in life, you have to just take a chance. And so, yes, I think I've been lucky, and I've worked hard. But also, and it was she who said it, the trouble with a horizon, you see a horizon, and as you move towards it, it just gets further away.
Right. There was some professor who talked about Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, Russian writers, and the contradiction between them, Tolstoy versus Dostoevsky. He said that in Tolstoy world there are moral duties and planned facts, but in Dostoevsky it's just impulse and everything comes spontaneously. So what is closer to you?
Dostoevsky.
Really? I see.
Dostoevsky always thinking I must be a bit more like Tolstoy.
It's funny. And usually people say that in a real piece of art is usually love or death.
Really?
Really. And do you agree?
Okay. I don't know what I think about that, but anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what inspires you? Or who inspires you? Because all artistic persons feel stressed sometimes and strained. So how can you overcome it?
Well, I think you just have to stay awake to the world that you live in and the circumstances you're in. And you know, that you have it in Russian, but in English you say you put your finger up to the wind.
Nose up to the wind. It's in Russian.
Well, finger up to the wind means you lick your finger and then you put it up to the wind to feel the wind on the wet finger. Where's it going? What's it doing? And so I think it changes every day. You know, young people who I find very inspiring because of the brave choices they make and the way that they change me. If there's no point in just becoming more and more of a fixed point and more certain. I think you have to. The job is to become more and more. The more you know, the less you know. So I think the inspiration is just to try to stay open and to be in the world that you're in, because God knows it gets more and more shocking every day. And I don't know, it goes back to what we were saying before, present an alternative.
I see.
Just have a couple more questions.
Okay, thank you. And nowadays, young people are pressed with information, with all those electronic gadgets, and even they don't have free time to sit and think and to dream. Is it important?
Dreadful. I agree. It's terrible. It's unstoppable. I don't know what's going to happen, because young people are losing, I hope not all of them, are losing the ability to ask questions because they can think they can press a button and there's the truth. And then they become addicted to the button. I mean, the sight of groups of tourists in an art gallery all looking at their iPhones is horrendous. And asking questions. Nobody asks questions. People are so full of certainty. I don't know.
Maybe art, the way out of it.
It always is. And storytelling. So I suppose it depends how that develops, and there's no use being just some old fogey about it, because the world will keep changing. And we have to tell stories to each other, about each other, otherwise we're finished. It's the only way we understand what we're about. It's just how will we receive them, and will we have the level of concentration? Are we able to sit still for 2 hours quietly and receive a story? Because now we can pause it while the phone rings, or we're being sold something every 15 minutes. I don't have the answers, but I think there are enough young inspiring people out there who will reinvent the wheel, and it just won't be the wheel I knew, and that's but meanwhile we're destroying the planet, so what world are we actually talking about? You know, it's got to be actually a physical planet to be on, to make work in. But if we don't notice that we're destroying it because we're so selfish and obsessed with looking at ourselves, then it's just it's kind of slow suicide.
Thank you a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, you are inspired by somebody else, and a lot of people are inspired by your work. They begin writing poems, books, and pictures.
Well, I'm very aware of letters and pictures and things that I get from Russia. So I mean, please pass that on, and I'm really grateful. It's I love.
Okay, thank you. Actually, that was also a book inspired by you.
Oh, I've already seen this.
Really?
Yes.
It's
Yes, I have a copy of it at home, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the first time I wrote something in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and who did the illustrations?
It's a girl from Ukraine. And actually it's
Now I remember. I always thought they were very flattering drawings, but
it all began before those events between Russia and Ukraine.
right.
And
What's happening in Ukraine now in terms of the arts?
I don't know in Ukraine, but yesterday it was in the news that a Ukrainian director was arrested and taken prisoner in Russia. So something dreadful happening. People just can't understand what is happening with our countries. It's because we were together all the time. I mean, Ukrainian and Russia, and I think the government makes everything to destroy this unity between our peoples.
The Russian government, or
I believe so.
yeah.
But I think that many people up there do what they want, not what people need.
It makes it very difficult because there's a film festival happening there. Begins with M, Molodova, or something like that. Film festival in Ukraine coming up soon in October, and it's mostly a children's film festival. It's for young people, and they've asked me if I would send a video message. And you think, now we live in a world where I don't know that I can do that because it will be used by one side or another to say, oh well, he supports this or that, and not just me, so it's really difficult.
Yeah.
You just have to stay out of it.
So you prefer to stay out, huh?
Mostly because otherwise you can't make a piece of work that lives on its own, because it's always attached to you somehow, and it's difficult.
I see. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe will you
For you.
sign for me?
Yeah. And you spell it with an I before the Y.
Yeah.
Natalia.
Natalia.
Beautiful illustration.
And maybe the one for the painter, for the illustrator, just I will send it to her. She will be pleased. Helen, her name is.
Helen.
Helen. Yeah, difficult times, maybe.
And you flying back today?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. There's another thing from my sister. Actually, she made this bear, Russian bear, for you.
Very sweet. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, I shall be watching a new adaptation of Turgenev tomorrow night at the National.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, they're doing a play called, they've changed the title. It's called 3 Days in the Country.
Yeah.
Instead of a month in the country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks for coming to England.
Thank you. And may I ask you for a photo?
I won't
We're not
do
going to
anything.
do. Sorry, I did.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I never know where they go.